Hi, I'm Andrea and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, if you've been here before, I've finally done this filming corner. This has been the subject of so much pondering and wondering and mulling over ideas. I have tried to decide exactly how I wanted to do this setup, and as you can see, it's really not that different from my last one. I did get a frame for my Shakespeare poster for anyone who has been eagerly anticipating this update, and I have my pin boards up. I've rearranged them a little bit. I have Morgana back in her place of honor. I'm drinking a chai this afternoon because I've already had 2 coffees today, so I had to cut myself off. And today I want to talk about something that I've definitely talked about here and there throughout some of my vlogs and probably mentioned in a lot of videos, but it's something that I think really deserves its own video and its own kind of discussion, especially because a lot of you guys, I think, are people who have moved a lot or who are just interested in moving a lot. And I wanted to talk about something that is definitely one of the worst things about moving, especially moving countries, moving like cities, continents. I kind of jumped in terms of size there. Cities, countries, continents, all of which I've done a lot actually in the past few years. We are now in the Netherlands for a little bit of time, so I can actually settle. We are very much comfortable in this new apartment. We love it. But it has been quite a roller coaster the past few years, and both of us, my husband and I, and our cats have adapted well to all of it. Each time has been, challenging for us, it's been exciting for us, but at the end of the day, the thing that I think I have the most trouble getting back on track is routine. And for me, routine is super important. And I've discovered about myself that there are certain things that I always do regardless of where I am, like coffee in the morning. I always start my day with coffee in the morning. And not even just because I need the caffeine physically, I think it's mentally. The only time I don't have coffee is if I'm very sick, and then I will have tea. So I always start with a warm drink. But from there, it actually depends a lot, I've discovered, on the space where I am. Where I'm going to read, where I'm going to work, where I'm going to chill, where I'm going to work out. All of that has definitely fluctuated as I have changed spaces. And I found the most sort of rocky time that I've experienced ever actually has been this past year and a half. Moving from New York to Canada, and then quite rapidly from Canada to the Netherlands. And then we moved, after our first year in the Netherlands, we moved here to this apartment. So we just moved apartments, same city, same country, but it was still just a lot. It was like rapid progression. I was working full-time, a corporate job, and now I have gone freelance. So that's changed quite a bit about my routine in terms of what's expected of me, like what I have to show up for at what time. And I think that also is a huge part of why my space has affected my daily routine so much. Because even when I was working a corporate job, I was working from home quite a lot towards the sort of end when the pandemic happened, when I moved to New York. I was remote from most of my team who were still based in France. So my space is very, it dictates how I do my work, but it also dictates things like my writing and my reading. Like reading is a very good example because I really got into a great routine with reading in Montreal, and I read so much. I think that was probably the time of my life since becoming an adult and having a job and everything. That's been the time when I have read the most. And then when we moved to the Netherlands, it was a different space, it was a different sort of habit. So all of that to say that building a routine is incredibly important for me, and it's one of the things that is the easiest to lose, I think, when we move, especially a huge move, a cross-continental move, for example, but even just apartment to apartment, it can be something that is rattled so easily. I do think it's important to talk about. It's why I wanted to make this video, because I think it's something that deserves a little bit more attention for you maybe to think about, to consider, but also for me to say out loud and make concrete to myself that this is something that is important for me. It's something that is hard. It seems so easy, but it's not always actually in practice. And it's something that I really need to focus a little bit more time on. And I have actually noticed tangible results when I've managed to kind of get a little piece of my routine back on track. More than just my coffee in the morning, but just kind of getting a little bit more flow. For example, I have started doing half an hour of reading in the morning, and it doesn't always happen if I get up a bit too late, or if I'm not in the mood, or if I have something super urgent I have to get done that morning. But I can control my schedule. This is something that I've never fully had before, and I'm very grateful for it. So let's take this opportunity while I have it, in case that changes at some point. So I have made a little list of some of the things that will be on my top priorities list when I'm building this routine. And I will warn you, I have 10 top things, so it's a lot to talk about, and some of them I will breeze right over, and others I might talk a little bit more about. But I would love it if you would leave in the comments below what are 2 or 3 things that you have definitely on your top priorities that you either have implemented a good routine for, or you would like to. And you can do this with me. We can be each other's inspiration. So the first one is pretty obvious, and that is freelance projects. Like I said, currently I am freelancing, and that is something that will take the priority. It is a little bit difficult to plan. That's actually been the biggest challenge I think for me freelancing so far, is that it can be very spontaneous. Sometimes deadlines can be very quick, the turnaround. Other times deadlines can be very broad and you can kind of, you know, fit them in how you see fit. So it is something that I'm still kind of working to find a good balance on how I approach that, but generally that is a top priority. A very self-evident one is this, what I'm doing right now, video making. And setting up this filming corner has been the essential first step to actually making this happen and building a routine out of it. So far in this apartment, I have been recording kind of all over the place, wherever I feel like, wherever is relevant, because I've done a lot of stuff related to the new apartment, related to my home, my space, all of that. And I have loved doing that, and I will continue to do that. But I'd also like to do more like this, where I have a subject that I want to talk about and maybe a few bullet points, and then I can just chat with you from a specific spot. I don't exactly know what kind of video schedule I would like to do. I haven't quite decided if I want to work towards a 1 video per week sort of schedule like I used to be on. Most important, I think, Hamlet has come to say hi. The most important thing I think for me is just constantly having a project, like a video project, be it something to record, something to plan and write, something to edit. That I think is most important to me as opposed to a strict publishing schedule. But maybe I will actually get myself on a more consistent or, you know, planned publishing schedule rather than right now. I don't think you can see him, but Hamlet has decided to settle on my lap. And he's very warm and it's very nice. The next one is reading, of course. Like I mentioned before, reading is super important. Like I said, I have been trying to do like about a half an hour reading every morning. It varies. Sometimes I read just a few pages, and then other times I get really stuck into whatever I'm reading, and if I can and have the time that day, I will just keep reading. Next is writing. So writing is a can of worms these days. I have had such an up and down relationship with the book that I'm writing. Not at all to do with the book itself, well, a little bit to do with the book itself. Mostly to do though with how I feel about my abilities to write this book. I do think that it's more challenging than books that I've written before, which is part of it, but I really think a lot of what has just thrown me off, just really just knocked me off course with my writing in the past few years really, has been a general pessimism that I have developed, despite myself, about the state of the world and the state of publishing and the state of literary criticism these days and social media. There's just been so much noise. It's just really bogged me down with my writing. And ultimately, I've let it affect me. I realized that I need to take a little more responsibility in blocking that out. And that's what I've really been working on lately. So I think this past year, my routine when it comes to writing has really just been finding ways of blocking that noise out. Maybe not completely. There's still, you know, some of it needs to enter once in a while. We need to have a little bit of reality checks once in a while, but really just compartmentalizing maybe a little bit more, choosing when I let that stuff enter my brain, choosing when I close it out, choosing which sources I let enter my brain and which sources I block out. And I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about it now, starting this year, about actually making writing part of my writing routine and not just writing adjacent things as I sort of try and like reprogram my brain to not be so pessimistic when I sit down to write. So that is something that is incredibly important for my routine, but I'm also trying to do it gently and carefully so that I don't kind of get myself into that negative space again. Then as I get back into it and know that I've successfully kind of blocked out the noise that I need to block out, then I can be a little bit more disciplined in how I approach it. Next is sports and fitness. So this has been very important to me for a very long time, but it's definitely something that changes quite drastically actually each time that I move, depending on how close I am to a gym, depending on how much space I have in the apartment to do my Pilates. I love doing at-home Pilates. You also probably have noticed, if you've seen some of my vlogs, if you follow me on Instagram, that I've become quite obsessed actually with bouldering. That's completely not something I ever thought I would say, not something I ever thought I would get this obsessed with, but that's become the sort of hobby and sport of choice for me and my husband. It's something we do together. We have some friends also who sometimes join us. I've also started to try to incorporate stretching more into my daily, you know, sort of routine. It's something that's very different from most of the things on this list, but also just most things that I think about and do in a day. I'm not a sporty person per se, but really just kind of getting in touch with your body, be it stretching, be it strength training, be it, you know, Pilates or something like that. It's just been really healthy, and it's also good to kind of distance myself from screens and from, you know, pages, from close things. As you know, I have terrible eyes. There's a reason for that. Also a bit different and equally important on this list is chores. Not only do we all have like the basic sort of chores and responsibilities that we have as adults. But I've also found, well, I say I found, I've known for a very long time that if I don't do those simple chores, if I don't do the things that are kind of nagging in my brain, I will not get a lot of other stuff done. Like if I have a very specific errand that I need to run, or if I know I have a huge stack of laundry that I need to do, sitting down to read, to write, to work on a project, a freelance project, unless it's incredibly important and the deadline is super close, it's much more important for me to go and put in that load of laundry or to go and run that errand and then sit down, because it will just kind of eat at me until I actually get it done. Back to the creative, next is music. This is possibly even more central to who I am than reading, simply because it is also storytelling, but it also is even more, like it's even more feeling, it's even more expression, it's even more theory and practical, you know, like practice and stuff like that as well. It's sort of everything wrapped up, like discipline and repetition and routine, but it's also creative, it's also expression, it's also feeling, it's also stories. I think I talked a little bit about this in a past video, like maybe last year when I first moved to the Netherlands, because I've been a lot better since I've moved here. That's one thing that I've managed to salvage and get better at since moving here. But I've been playing a lot more guitar, I've been singing a lot more again. I've just tried to incorporate just a little bit more music into my daily routine. Sometimes it's just listening to music, and I do try and branch out and find new music, but other times I just want to throw on something that I loved like in 2012 and listen to an entire album from 2012. And I think that's also perfectly fine, depending on what I want to do that day. And also play music, teach myself new things on guitar, sing stuff that maybe is a little bit more challenging for me. And I've also played more violin. I played for a wedding in September, which was the first time I've played for someone's wedding in a very long time. Ugh. Shoot, I just spilled my tea. Why am I always doing this? I get so, like, I talk with my hands so much. I don't know why I ever thought it was a good idea to start filming videos while holding tea and coffee. It's always been my thing. I don't plan on changing it. Next on the list is keeping up with friends. So this is something that feels maybe a little bit odd to be talking about sort of at the same time as I'm talking about productive goals or, you know, routine and chores. But honestly, texting people back, making plans is absolutely something that I have to have on my radar when it comes to routine. I have never really been able to decide if I am more of an extrovert or more of an introvert. I'm really an ambivert, but I mean, aren't we all in some ways a little bit of both? But I really can't decide because I absolutely need to have social plans. I absolutely need to have people around me at some point. I don't also like to be completely by myself. I like to have my husband or, you know, a really close friend or a sister. But then when I sort of extend that group to people I know a little bit less, I do find that I only have a limited amount of energy that I can do that with, but I also really like it. So I'm not fully extroverted. I'm not the type of person who always needs to have something going on and wants to go out every night. I like to have quiet nights, but I also am not completely introverted either because I really don't like to spend too much time by myself. So figure that one out. Either way, one thing I have noticed about myself since probably 2020, 2021-ish is that if I let myself kind of get too lost in my own stuff, I can let social plans and social priorities fall to the wayside, and then I'm really unhappy and it really affects me and my ability to do all those other things that I was trying to do. So I put this on this list because I absolutely need to have, I think, a set amount of time every day, honestly, where I respond to texts, where I make a plan. If I don't already have a plan that week, I make a plan, even if it's just grabbing coffee. Doesn't have to be a night out or anything like that, or it can be something even very small to make sure I'm getting out of the apartment. That's another thing that I am trying to get a little bit better at, is maybe going to a cafe to write. I've said this a lot and I've not fully gotten myself on a routine, but I might try and do like a specific day every week that I take whatever I'm working on, be it a freelance project or writing or reading or whatever, and I take it to a place outside my apartment. But I really do need to set aside a specific amount of time to text people back, to make plans, all of that. Okay, the neighbors are doing a little bit of construction, as you can hear. Apparently they've decided to start their projects for the day. They weren't doing it before. So I apologize for that as I try to finish this video. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a speed run of these last couple on this list. Studying languages, language learning. This one, again, very obvious one if you follow me for a while. I think I want to have a little bit of flexibility when it comes to language learning. I'm still learning a little bit of Dutch, but it's not necessarily my first priority for various reasons that I'm not going to go into right now. Spanish is something that I'm finally reprioritizing after saying for several years I wanted to put that back on my sort of top language learning goals, I think it is the second language that I want to go to practice. And it has been my first priority when it comes to like, if I'm gonna open up Duolingo or word reference or go to a YouTube video to practice specifically, not just for enjoyment, but for practice. Not French, because that's more enjoyment and leisure than it is practice. Spanish has been my first go-to. And then I also am still dabbling in Portuguese. I think I started that when I was in Canada at one point. I put it on the back burner when I first moved here because I was trying to learn a bit of Dutch, and I'm still trying to learn a bit of Dutch, but Portuguese is just fun. I just enjoy it. So if I'm looking for a bit of time to spend on languages that is not necessarily hardcore practice, because Spanish I actually have a bit more, like I have real goals with Spanish, and French is not practice as much as just continuing to expand my horizons. If I want to do something that feels a little bit more fun and, you know, I allow myself to be basic and kind of bad, then Portuguese is my go-to. This is not speedrun enough. And last is baking and or cooking new things. This past week I actually have discovered I love to make soup. And it's kind of fun, and I'm not too bad at it, actually. I've been very random about the soups that I've been making. There's been not a lot of recipe following, but I think just making sure every couple of weeks I bake something new or I try a new recipe. Maybe every week I try a new cooking recipe. That might be a little bit ambitious. I've done a lot of it in this past week, so I'm feeling very ambitious about this right now, but I think realistically, once every week or once every 2 weeks with a completely new recipe is probably safe. I'm not sure how much structure I really need when it comes to baking and cooking, but it's something that I want to make sure I'm allowing a little bit of time for, because it is something that's good for me in so many ways. It's good for my brain, it's good for my heart, it's good for my stomach because I get to taste something new. So yeah, not the most important thing on this list. It's actually quite fitting that it was the last one, but it is something that I would like somewhere in my routine. So now I have the basic elements and what I need in a sort of daily, weekly, monthly routine, with a few other things sprinkled in, of course. Now the important thing is to come up with some sort of regularity and rhythm that I will follow. Some things are sort of off to a good start when it comes to reading, when it comes to chores. Writing has become more successful, but I still have a lot of progress to go in terms of what I want with my writing routine. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, let me know in the comments below a couple of things that are on your routine. Either right now it's already something you built into your routine, or it's an aspirational thing that you want to build into your routine. We will keep each other updated and get this year off to a good start. I am so excited to record more in this little corner in my little space. It's very cozy. So hopefully it turned out okay, and I will make many more videos to come here. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon in another video.